Welcome back to the Controvert podcast, where we talk about growth, motivation, modern dating, and crazy stories. Today we got a full house again. It's probably like our third full house ever, but we have a full house, and we're gonna talk about modern dating. And we have Juanne, special girl right here, special guest, and you guys are married, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. You guys want to introduce yourself, like just your name, and then the topic today actually is gonna be, should men pay for dates? So let's just have your name and if you think men should pay for dates. Just think about it simply. Let's just give a short answer for now, and then we'll dive more deeper into it later.
First date, right? Not just dates. We're talking about first date, right?
Just try and answer it as simple as possible.
So just yes or no?
Yeah, just yes or no.
Okay, just yes or no.
We'll dive deeper into it later.
My name is Juanne LIKES, and no, I don't think men should pay for dates.
Okay.
And hello, my name is James Wenceslao, and I don't think men should pay for dates.
I'm Sandy. I don't think there's any rule that anyone should pay for a date.
Okay, cool. And then I'm your host, Panda, and I definitely don't think men should pay for dates. All right, so, before we get deeper into this, I want to ask Juanne, why do you think that men should not pay for dates?
I don't think men are obliged to pay for dates, but I guess it's to each their own. If the man wants to pay for a date, I'm not going to stop them, but I'm not going to demand a guy that I just met to pay on the first date.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm entitled to that.
Okay. So if he doesn't pay for a date, like the first date, would you still go out with him the next time? If he's got like a good vibe and all that stuff.
If he has a good vibe, then maybe. Yes.
Okay.
For me, the important thing is them offering like, hey, do you want to split it, or do you want me, like, I can cover it. And then that's when I'll come in and be like, no, we can split it. It's fine.
But obviously you're married now, so you're not going to be going on any more dates, right? So, I'm just saying in a hypothetical situation, or back then. Okay. So you've been married for how long? It's been like a year or so, right?
Year and a half.
Year and a half. And you're, I think, 27, right?
28.
28? Okay. 28 is pretty early to get married. So I would consider that a pretty successful relationship and marriage, right? You guys have a pretty good, you guys connected within like a year or so, and then you got married within a year, or
we got married on our 2-year anniversary.
Oh, 2-year, wow.
Yeah.
It's been that long.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Okay. Yeah, okay. 2-year anniversary, that's when you guys got married. Okay, so do you feel like nowadays it's a little bit harder for modern dating because there's more of an expectation that men have to pay for dates? Let's start with Sandy, actually.
What's the question? Like, why men have to pay for dates in modern dating?
Do you think modern dating is harder now because there's a bigger expectation that men have to pay for dates? And say, for example, if he doesn't pay for a first date, would you still go out with him?
I would, because it really depends on the vibe and the person, like his financial status. It's a lot of different reasons. So I would go with him again if I'd find him interesting to hang out with. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then, do you think like modern dating is failing because more and more women are starting to expect that?
I think, you know how like it's, for me, it's kind of like, because I think a lot of women, they feel like if the guy pays for the date, it means that they're trying to invest in them, which is not true, right? But what's true is, well, in my opinion, what's true is if a man doesn't pay for the first date, I don't think the person is interested in you. Of course, there are like other exceptions. So I'm saying like, even if the guy pays for you, it doesn't mean he's interested. But if the guy doesn't even pay for the first date, for sure, most likely he's not interested. That's my take on it. Yeah.
Did you guys have anything to say for that? Like, does that correlate with interest if he doesn't pay?
Well, I think more of like if the man pays for the date, it's more like a gesture, right? You're trying to show the girl that you want to sweep them off their feet, especially on the first date. So I wouldn't say it's necessary, but to kind of help in the guy's favor to show that he appreciates and like, shows affection towards her, then he would go ahead and pay for the date.
But my question for all of you guys is, why does it need to be like a guy having to pay to show the gesture? How come it can't be both sides? Because if we teach equality, teach it at a young age, I learned it at a young age that men and women should be equal, right? Obviously it's not equal, but we're taught that you should respect the certain amount of equality and authority, right? So if we're taught all of that stuff, and then men are still expected to have this gesture of paying for the first date and all that stuff, or even second date, third date, then why does the man have to initiate that gesture, right?
I don't think the man has to. I think it's more about like between two people who's identified as the alpha, who's identified as the beta. So if you identify yourself as the alpha, then of course, like, you naturally take the initiative to treat or to, take that step forward. So it just depends on what role you identify yourself with,
But women don't like beta guys, right? They want an alpha guy. So then,
I think a person can be both, like sometimes down, like in the beginning of a relationship, maybe the man is the alpha, the female is the beta, but then like, as the relationship goes on, sometimes like the roles, like they switch, that's what I think.
I think if we're talking about a more like modern dating culture, I think right now is more about like the term, you hear the term like hot girl summer, or like things like where the individual is focused on possibly dating as many people or showing that they're able to get these many people's attention. So when it comes to girls expecting the guy to date in this circumstance, right? Girls are trying to get guys to pay for them and kind of almost flaunt themselves like, hey, it's my hot girl summer, right? I'm getting all these guys to pay for my dinners. Some part of that dating culture is involved in that kind of aspect.
I think there's also a statistic too, like I think 1 in 4 women, they try to just like get a guy to pay for the free meal. Like they just go out with a guy just for a free meal or something like that. I think I posted it on my story or something, right? What was that? Yeah. It's something like that. Don't quote me.
According to a new study, many women are choosing free meals over relationships. The study in the journal Social, Psychological, and Personality Science says up to a third of women have engaged in a foodie call. It's when a person sets up a date with somebody they have no romantic interest in, all for a free meal.
Yeah, so I think like because of that, it could be a little bit superficial. Like where this woman just goes out with this guy just for like a free meal, and then so we're kind of setting up a means of materialism and superficialness. And if you want a relationship to be pure and close to pure, it's not going to be 100% pure, right? Mm-hmm. If you want it to be close to pure and full of love, like without materialism, then you would want it to be not the guy paying for like the first few dates and stuff like that, right? So I do remember, Sandy, you did mention before, like you do want a guy to pay long term for like dates and stuff like that, right? So
I think so a lot of my girlfriends and I were actually the type of people that if we go on a date with a guy that like they like us, but we know that we just like them platonically, me and my friends, we would not let the guy pay. Like sometimes we'll take the bill or we'll split it, because for me, like I don't want you to spend money on me when I know that I have no interest in you. But if it's with a guy that I like, it's not that I expect, it's not about the money, right? If the meal comes out to be like $30, come on, like I can afford it, but it's just more like if I'm really interested in the guy and I want to, like what he said earlier, like I want to know if he would make that gesture to show that he's willing to, pay this meal for me. It's about the thought. It's not really about like the money that we're going after.
Why does it have to be related to paying? Why can't it be related to like if he could lift heavy boxes? Like for example, groceries definitely. Or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. But the first date, we're talking about like first date dinner, right? Obviously, I value act of service more than a lot of other qualities, So that's definitely like an important one. But we're talking about first date. It's like the initial impression. This is guy. Like I said earlier, just because a guy pays for you, it doesn't mean he's interested in you. He could be trying to get into your pants, right? But like I said, if a guy doesn't even pay for you the first date, then you kind of just take it as, oh, I don't think this guy is really that interested in me, Yeah.
Okay.
I think too, it's been a long time that men have been expected to do like acts of service for women without being asked, like them taking their own initiative. And it's been so long, like women stay home and then men work and they provide. Like it's outdated, and people are still in the mindset that men should always be the providers, which I totally disagree with. And then women feel entitled to just do whatever they want because they're a woman, and not have to put in like not even 50% of what is needed in a relationship just because, you know, I'm a woman. My man should protect me and provide for me and do everything for me because I'm a woman.
Do you think there's a double standard now because as feminism allowed for women to have more access to jobs, now it's like, okay, so if women have more access to jobs, then they should be pulling their own weight, and if they're not and they're expecting a lot more, then it's kind of like a double standard? That's what you're kind of saying?
Yeah, I think it's very double standard now, especially that women have more opportunities now than they did before.
Okay, cool. So so the backstory on this is that I got matched with this girl, and then I saw on her prompt princess treatment 24/7. That's the key to her heart. So do you guys think that this princess treatment is starting to become a little bit toxic, where women could like expect all this princess treatment, but they're not doing anything to account for it?
I think so.
But what is like princess treatment? Like to what extent is a princess treatment? Like how far does it go? Like to see, like if I were a guy and I saw that and I matched with this girl, I would probably ask her, like, what is princess treatment to you? Because it's such a generalized, you know, topic that it could be either like an excessive thing or something that I just want a gentleman to treat me the way I'm supposed to be treated.
Yeah, when you say a gentleman treating you the way you want to be treated is just like with respect, right?
Right.
And respect does not equate to just him paying for stuff.
No,
for you, like,
definitely not. No.
So I think princess treatment is defined as getting your meals paid for and getting pampered, where you get driven around all the time and you don't really have to do much. That's my definition of princess treatment. So in that regards, like, I remember, Juanne, you did mention that there was some things about like unempowered women, right? Like that's what princess treatment kind of translated to. So what do you think would be wrong with unempowered women?
With what?
Unempowered women. Sorry, can't even talk today.
I feel like unempowered women, because they don't have certain control of their life. When they date, they try to exude that in their dating life, and it's just like, I need to be in control and I need my man to do what I want, because everywhere else, like, I don't have control.
Do you think that you're more of like a princess or you're more of like an empowered woman? Like who wears the pants in a relationship? In your guys' marriage, who wears the pants?
I think it's pretty equal, because there are things that I won't do that I'm like, hey, this is, like, I set a boundary. This, like, I don't want to do laundry. I don't want to do dishes. And he takes on that thing. But, like, when it comes to driving, I will drive. He's asleep the whole time. And, like, some of our friends are sometimes like, James, like, you have to drive. Like, you're the guy. I'm like, no, like, he doesn't want to do it. Like, I'll do it. Like, if I can do it, if I'm capable of doing it, why am I going to force him to do it? You know? So it's like, we kind of even out each other's wants and needs. And it's like, okay, well, whatever you don't pick up, I'll do it. And it's like, if you're at an 80% one day, like, and I'm at a 20, like, I expect you to be there for me for the 80 that I'm not there.
So it's not necessarily like one is female gender role, one is male gender role, because people would assume that male gender role would be like driving, would be like making money,
right?
And a female gender role would be like doing the laundry or cooking and cleaning.
Oh, we're the complete opposite.
Complete opposite, right? So I think what is really important is when you have a sense of equality and you can carry each other's weight. But for the case like this, a princess treatment 24/7, in my eyes, when I see that as a guy, I'm like, holy fuck. Does that mean I have to cook and clean and make
and
money
work
and drive you and all this shit? And I'm like, yo, that's crazy. But okay, like, James, let me ask you.
Sure.
So being like more of like, I guess, feminine roles, like doing feminine roles, does that kind of turn you off that she does more of like masculine roles?
No, not really. I think as she said before, it's just showing up for each other in areas that we're not willing to do so. Mm-hmm. So I think when it comes to I think princess treatment, there are ways that I would still kind of court her every day and show my affection, show my love and respect that in that way. I think that nowadays, I think girls are taking advantage of that princess treatment and just seeing it as an overall arching everything should be treated out towards me. But I think when you're in a relationship, you know how to court your partner in the correct ways that they and I truly appreciate it, and that's all that really matters. I think it's just more of like when it comes to the first date, like I think the individuals don't know each other, so they just want to take as much as they want out of each other. I think nowadays, like
they want to take more than receive.
Yeah, I think right now dating is a little bit almost selfish in the initial part. So it gets more challenging because now, like, I was in that stage before, like I was being very more selfish towards myself. Yeah. It wasn't until I met her I was willing to be unselfish and be more vulnerable that we're actually able to kind of come in fruition of like our relationship now. But just dating nowadays is just a lot more toxic.
Oh, by the way, feel free if you guys like see any like holes in anyone's like logic, you guys can just poke holes into each other's.
Okay,
sure.
You know,
sure.
I mean, I'm not gonna be leading the whole time, so I need some other people to chime in and stuff like that.
I feel like speaking of like the first date, I think it's very common for people to. I mean, I don't disagree. A lot of people talk about how women, they're gold diggers. They go on like dates with men just because they want to get a free meal, which there are a lot of people like that. But I think what a lot of people haven't talked about is that there's actually a lot of male gold diggers. Because I used to date people where they borrowed money from me and to gamble, or like I always had to pay for everything because maybe I come from a better background than the guy's background. So I think, you know, this is why I try to keep an open mind with a lot of things, because you don't know what the girl's been through, why they feel like, oh, I kind of want the guy to pamper me because I want to feel loved because of what I've been through. And same as guys, right? So that's why I feel like it really hasn't been talked about.
But then I think the problem with that is then you become like this, where you're like princess treatment 24/7, and you don't want to do jack shit.
I think that's a little that's too extreme. That's yeah. But I'm just saying that you know, there's always a story behind like everyone's past. But yeah, that I don't agree at all. Yeah.
But
I know what you're talking about, Sandy. I think that women, they experience some sort of trauma or like some sort of bad experience where like they got juked or they got gypped or with money with some really bad guys. And there are really bad guys out there, you know. They're pieces of shits that don't really have a sense of responsibility, and I'm not going to deny that. But the thing is, I think it's really important if you like go from this point and just turn complete 180 and you're just like, now you want a guy to do everything, even like the female gender roles, I guess. So that's a lot of the things that I experienced. James, I don't know if back then 2 years ago, before you got married, before you met Juanne, was that stuff that you were also experiencing, where it was like you would feel the need to do the male gender roles and the female gender roles?
I would say I don't have a very she is my second girlfriend, so I don't have a very strong. I've talked to other girls, so in this particular, I don't. For me, like I came up the same way as you did, where like I want to court the person I'm trying to date or trying to show my affection. So I would do all those things. I wouldn't say I've cooked and cleaned because I didn't live with them, but like I'll do everything I can to kind of show that. So, I'm sorry, what's the question?
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
You did that like I think twice last time.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to check out that video, what's the title again? It was like feminist asses what people bring to the table.
Yeah, something like that.
There's also a Full House session where we had like two other people, Tran and Stephanie.
I think that was the one we watched 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we fell asleep like we
fell asleep.
We threw it at
Wait,
night. No. We threw it at
that boring or what?
No. We found out we're doing the podcast. Like, oh, let me just throw it on. I just want to see how it's going.
Let's see like how it's gonna go.
And so we just like we're laying in bed, and I just threw it out on speaker, and we're just like listening to it and just like talking about it. And then
he didn't knock out. I did.
So sad.
I knocked out.
But hey, dude, I mean, you guys are still big supporters of Controvert, so I really appreciate that. And anyone else who's watching, thank you. Okay, so
I think more just circling back to the questions, I just really enjoyed courting. I think that's even growing with the music, R&B, you're really just throwing yourself out there to show your love. I just enjoyed that. So I come from a different background. I know that I think, like you said, I think at this point, for this treatment 24/7, girls or even males, they just want to have zero risk when it comes to dating nowadays because of just the bad histories they've had before. So they'll do anything to kind of just protect themselves as much as they can.
Yep. All right, cool.
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned it, right? So I'd assume that like most guys, they actually enjoy the stage of like courting someone they like. So I assume that like on the first day they will want to show like, oh, I want to take the initiative and get this meal, because I think that they would actually enjoy that.
Wait, hold up. So with this whole thing about like courting a girl, like, do you mean you like the chase?
When I was dating, like fully on date, yeah, I enjoyed the chase. I enjoyed, getting I enjoyed like if I had to get flowers for that person or pay for their meals, or this is like back in high school where I like this girl I met literally like maybe 3 days before I took her to prom. I paid for everything, the limo, the ticket to the prom, everything, just because.
Wait, hold up. But isn't it like a little bit frustrating that you have to do that all the time, man? It's a repetitive cycle of dating apps.
Yeah, I think so. But I think at that point, I think what I've learned, because I was kind of losing heart in it too. It gets exhausting if it doesn't come to fruition and your relationship fails, and you become more selfish. Now you are being more reluctant to do all these things because you're almost scared or afraid to get hurt again. And so I think when it came to me being selfish, kind of more closer to when I was closer to dating her, I kind of found out that the more selfish I am towards myself, nothing's going to lead up to the relationship that I really want. I'm protecting myself. I'm not putting that hurt at risk or I'm not risking myself getting hurt. But that relationship can no longer, like, I don't know what that relationship's going to lead to because I can't court them and they don't know how much I care for them in that way.
Got it. So I think what you're trying to say is that initially you like the chase, and then for a period of time you want to be selfish because you got disappointed and hurt. Then you were like, coming to this realization that, you know what, if I keep having this mindset, I'm going to keep myself guarded too much.
Yeah.
And if you keep yourself guarded too much, you won't be able to let your walls down. And I think that's very important because then you won't be able to trust anyone, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Okay. I totally agree with that. I think that's also a problem with modern dating now, because modern dating, you have a lot of people who are just always like, oh, are you a fuck boy? Are you a fuck girl? Yeah. And it's like a battle. It's a psychological battle.
Yeah.
Like, what's this person's strategy? Like, what are they trying to? I was gonna say something pretty bad, but
wait,
are they trying? It's like it's like the battle of the sperm.
What?
I don't know what I'm trying to say, dude. I don't know. It's like you know, like in World War II, it's like, how can we siege this enemy's territory? It's like, how can I siege into her mind or his mind so that she really likes me or that he really likes me, and just like mind fuck her. And I feel like it's just psychological warfare at this point.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, but let's move on to this. Okay. So there's some backstory.
Oh, that's such a that's kind of a turn off when you see someone.
Yeah, let me give some backstory on this. All right, so I got matched with this girl also.
Why are you getting matched with girls that have like no value?
All right, I wasn't gonna say what you said, Joanne. I have a quote from what you said when you reply my story about this. You remember this, right?
Yes, I remember.
Okay, so
it was so funny because after you posted this on your story, like I was gonna go off on my story and like just go off, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't.
So can I say what you said?
Sure.
You said, at least be pretty if you're gonna be asking guys to pay. I was like,
That's
damn,
brutal.
this is savage.
But I kind of agree with you.
All right, so you guys agree that you guys are all in agreement that, but okay, the thing I want to ask you, Sandy, though, you mentioned before that like girls deserve to get their meals paid for.
I never said that.
If they spend all this time looking good and all that stuff.
I never said that.
Or, I don't know. You said something about like.
That was my girlfriend that you.
But you said you said you agree with that.
I never said that I agree with that. I never said that. I am so the opposite of that.
Okay.
I never said that.
Okay, so then you say you kind of understood that. You were
I understand where she's coming from, but I don't agree with it because
okay, got it.
if you spend a lot of money like getting dressed up and putting your own makeup, I would do it for me. I'm
Right.
not doing it for the guy. I'm
Right.
doing it for me. So
Yeah.
why would I expect him to pay for me because I'm spending all this money? Like,
Okay.
you know.
Okay. Pretend, right? Pretend you're her. Pretend you're her for like 5 minutes. Okay?
I can't.
Try to think about how she would be thinking about it. Okay. So.
You were there. You heard everything. You pretend to be her. How
No,
would you she,
I
like,
don't know because
no,
okay,
you
you're
were-
really good at putting yourself in other people's shoes, which is good. You know, that's a really good like trait and power.
This is a
you have.
trick.
Okay, so what do you think that she was trying to say? Like, because say for example, okay, you spend all this money and then you try to look good, but then you still end up looking like this. And then it's is this lady like, you know? Okay, so. Okay, you spend
yeah,
I'm pretty sure she spent a lot of money, okay?
No.
To
doesn't
do her
look like
hair.
he's
Well,
For the
keep in mind
dress.
too, like, did you see her age?
I forget. What is
22,
Like-
right?
it? What does it say?
20.
It's 22.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like
that's
when you're
true.
that young,
That's
like
true.
you're not out for something serious. And even if you are, like that's not the kind of thing you would be
That's a
posting
good
on your
point.
dating app or your dating profile, because technically like a dating profile is a resume, like a dating resume. This is what people base you on.
Yeah. So okay, well, anyways, oh shit, showed her name, whatever. Okay. Whatever.
You can block it later.
Okay. Wait, why is it still playing?
But I do think
Like
Here's like, okay. I think I had some replies. I was like, okay, it's a little cut off. It says for the streets. Okay, so do you guys think? Okay, so what I want to ask Sandy is just getting in the mind of her. Okay, like what do you think she was trying to say? Like if a girl spends
one?
all this money and she still looks like this. Okay, her dress looks expensive. Her hair looks like it got
that's a
done.
dress.
No, earlier. Not this one on the street. But there's the red dress, right? And then her tattoos are probably expensive. Do you think that's justified that, you know, like, for example, she spent all this money and she still looks like that? Is it justified that she still has this expectation that guy should be paying for her?
Well, I never think that kind of expectations are even like validated. Like I never agreed that in the first place. So I'm a little confused.
But I mean, like, what do you think she's thinking? Like, do you think she would still think, okay, yeah, like,
Why
this
would I
girl
know what she's thinking?
what your friend was thinking?
I really don't know that girl that well, but I do know there's a lot of girls with that mindset. It's like all over the internet. And I really want to assume that I feel like the girl that we know, I think that she's been through some shit with like men in the past where she wasn't treated really well. So right now she feels like, okay, like I feel like she probably feels like, okay, well, I'm going on a date with you and if I don't look good, you probably won't like me. So I'm going to look extra good for you. And this is like the effort that I'm making. I'm not saying that is the right way of thinking, but if I put myself in her shoes, given what she's been through in the past, maybe now her mindset is a little bit more on the extreme side, which a lot of people are like that. You know, even men, they've been
Even
through
guys
some
are like
shit.
that.
Yeah. So it's not just women. I think both women and men. Yeah.
I think if you have a past history of being manipulated with like words of affirmation or anything else, like they might even just come to paying for the first meal as the only way that someone can show that they love me, because everything else that everyone has showed them has led to just negative outcomes.
Because you told me you also like got hurt before, right? When you were trying to like court and then you were like disappointed. So later on you kind of felt guarded. You wanted to change your way around. You don't want to be the Mr. Nice guy that's always putting the effort.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I honestly would kind of disagree with what you said though, because what like I think for men though, like wait, is this, well, anyways, wait, why are you, sorry, don't look at the screen. All right, okay. Sorry, I had to turn that off. Okay, what I'm trying to say is that I disagree with you, because I feel like when men go through like these traumatic experiences, we don't expect the next woman we date to just completely do everything. I feel like when women go through these experiences, they're just like, all right, men are all trash, so I want a guy who could take care of all of this for me, and then their standards increase. But when we go through traumas like this, our standards kind of decrease. I don't know if you feel that same way, James, but like for me, when I gone through like bad experiences with girls, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just look for like someone with just like a good personality at this point.
No, but I feel like men self-sabotage themselves. Like for women, if we get fucked up by a guy, like our standards increase because we already know what we want. For guys, it's like if they get messed up by a girl, you guys go around and sleep with multiple women because you don't know what you want. And it's like you're self-sabotaging yourself. I mean, as much as we are, but at least women put value to themselves rather than guys do.
But I mean, is that really self-sabotaging? Because usually guys and girls, they would use like just a hookup as just a means to get their mind off that other person, right? When they're heartbroken. So I don't necessarily think that's self-sabotaging, right?
Well, to me it is, because it's like, I guess coming from like, I don't sleep with people outside of a relationship. So for me, it's like if I start dating somebody and they're like, oh, this is my body count. And it's like, well, like, how does that make me feel? Like, I'm giving you something that I usually don't give other people. And it's like, you're just here throwing yourself and like using other girls. And it's like, I don't feel special.
I see what you're saying. Because you only like have physical interaction when you're in a relationship.
Right.
So, okay.
So for me, I value that.
Yeah. I think that's great. That's good.
Okay. So you did mention that like if a guy has slept around with a lot of women, then it's kind of like disgusting. That's kind of what you're saying. Like
it turns me off. It turns me off, and it worries me because it's like, okay, well, he's had sex with so many people. It's like, what if he doesn't feel a certain way when he does it with me? Like, is he doing it just because he says he loves me? Like, that's how we started, because I don't date around the way like people our age date around. I date to, you know, be long term, and that's what I told him when we started talking. I was like, hey, like if we're gonna talk, like this has to lead to a relationship or else I'm out.
Okay.
And so when he had told me about the girls that he was trying to get at, and like, I haven't had sex and I'm in college and I just wanted to get it out of the way. And for me, it's like, I thought people have sex because they love the other person, not just because like, oh, I haven't done it yet, I'm inexperienced, so let me just get it out of the way.
Yeah. I think women have trouble kind of like understanding that, because men by nature, I think they're just more horny, and we could just have sex like emotionlessly, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not bragging or anything. It's just more like, I mean, I think by nature and by genetics, it's just like that. I mean, I think there's this one video where it's like men could impregnate like almost half the population or something like that. Like, I don't remember the statistic again, but like there's a statistic that says that men's like sperm, they could like just inseminate so many women, but like women can only have one child, right? They can only be pregnant at one time, right? So a man, when he ejaculates, then that would make a lot of women pregnant. But yeah, okay, I'm not gonna beat that. Okay, you guys get it. You guys get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. But Joanne, I kind of want to ask though, like, so when you see a guy, or back then when you're dating around, when a guy was really experienced, he had a lot of girls before and has hooked up with a lot of girls, did that turn you off or that turned you on?
It turned me off, but I try to see past that, because, you know, somebody that has gotten cheated on before, a lot of people have told me you can't base your current relationship or like the dating scene you're in now, you can't base it off of your experience, because everyone's different. So when a guy tells me like, oh yeah, this is my body count, I'm like, okay, let me try to see past that and let's see like how it works out. But if they act fuckboyish while they're with me, then I'm like, bye.
Yeah, I agree with that, you know, because I think that with a lot of girls that I dated before, because you guys know me, I'm like pretty fuckboy and stuff like that. I'm not gonna like, I mean, not anymore, but you know, I've had a fuckboy past, right?
Yeah.
So when I was like fucking around and stuff like that, after I finished, then like I got judged by all these girls, and then their walls were really guarded. And then I don't even think that it's just me, but I think with several other guys, they would have this attitude. Even if this girl doesn't know this guy's past, she would still be like, oh, you know what? Like, I can't trust you. And as what we were talking about earlier, like if your walls are just up, then you're going to have like this toxicity. And I think like relationship, to be successful, there has to be trust. And I think that's a big reason why you two are really successful with like having a marriage because you guys are 28. How old are you?
28.
28 as well?
Yeah.
28, and then you guys got married pretty early, and then, you know, right?
Yeah, I think, well, we started dating like right at the start of COVID. So we couldn't go out and do like sociable things. We actually, since we were long distance dating, we would spend days, like I would visit her, we would stay in a hotel room, we'll dine in, eat in. I'll spend like a weekend with her and then go back down to San Diego. So kind of left with no other additional space other than just like having talks. And it was great that she kind of came forward with like, she was only going to be dating me if it was for the long term. So it kind of broke down all those walls. I'm like, at least now I can trust her and that this is where it's going to lead up to. I can be less reserved with all my background, history, you know, secrets, whichever, and then kind of just be fully vulnerable with her. And that's kind of what allowed her to be more vulnerable with me. And then we came to trust each other even more.
Cool. Did you have something to say? You kind of like got up and stuff.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so trust is like one of the keys to a successful relationship. What else do you think is important? Do you think conflict resolution is important? Do you think that's one of the most important, or that's?
I think it is, because I'm a hothead. I love to argue and I love to fight, and I will pick a fight whenever I get a chance. And like the guys that I've dated before him, excluding Phil, they were very much on like, okay, I'm going to argue with you head on too. And it didn't solve anything. You know, it made it worse. And then when I started dating him, it was so odd because every time like I would try to pick a fight, even if there's nothing to fight about, I would just pick on something. And he would say, oh, babe, I'm sorry you feel that way. Like, what can I do to make it better? And I'm like, that's not what I want you to say. I want you to argue with me. And then like at the beginning of our relationship, like I say things I regret when I'm angry. And he's the type of person that likes to fix things right then and there. Like if I'm mad at him, he's like, okay, let's sit down and talk. But it's like, you can't talk to me if I'm not level-headed. So you have to give me time to calm down. So like the longer we dated, he already knew like, okay, I'm going to not talk to you. I'm going to wait until you calm down, and I'm going to wait for you to approach me and start the conversation. Because that's when he knows that I'm ready to talk without being hostile.
That's good. Okay.
And I think another key for a relationship, I think everyone kind of says that communication is like really key for just a successful relationship. But I think it's also a bigger step to actually being willing to understand the other person, because you can communicate all you want. Like I can be direct with her and try to resolve the conflict, but that's not how she resolves conflict. That's not how she doesn't want to resolve it right then and there. She wants to, you know, she needs time to process everything. And we come from kind of different perspectives on quite a few things, but willing to kind of, one, respect each other and try to understand each other is kind of what allows communication to keep going. Because if you guys aren't willing to understand each other, then you guys are just going to keep communicating, yelling at each other. Even if you're just talking, it's not going to get anywhere.
I feel like it's not just about like communicating with each other, right? Or like trying to understand each other. I think it's also like having like a really high self-awareness, because I feel like sometimes people, they don't really have self-awareness, including myself sometimes. That's why sometimes I need time to like process and think about it. What is it that I've done wrong, or why is this person thinking that way? So I think that's also very important.
I think that's why everything kind of like ties into trust, because if you don't have trust in that person, you can't trust that that person will be self-aware. So for example, if someone's being like, this girl's being like not self-aware, and then the guy is like not having that trust anymore, that trust is broken. And so if that's already broken, then that's pretty much the end of it. So if you could trust in the long run that this person is going to be having self-awareness or having qualities like what you guys talked about, conflict resolution, whatever you guys just discussed, then I don't know, it all factors into trust. And especially trust at the very beginning is pretty important, because I've had girls I went on dates with and they just could not get over like my fuckboy past, or they just could not get over, like, even if I don't even talk about my fuckboy past, they're just like, you look like a fuckboy. Like, shit, like, what can I do to make it so that she could trust me? And I think that's why it's so important, because you could have had like a really good potential mate, and then you just cut it off just because you're scared. And so I think what you mentioned, that's really key point, man. And that's actually something I wanted to talk about in another podcast long time from now. I don't know. It's on my list. There's a lot of things on my list.
But trust, I think that's a good point, right? But how do you expect people to trust you? Because I feel like from the beginning of the relationship, I feel like trust is something that takes time to build. So it's not just like when you meet someone, you need to trust them right off the bat. It just really takes time. Like a person can be so complex, their past, like it's so complex. It's just not possible to trust someone right off the bat. There's always going to be doubts and questions, and it's really just time and patience.
True, but I think trust, when you just like first meet a stranger, we're talking about like the basic trust. So like when you meet a stranger, you trust that they're not a piece of shit. And I think what you're talking about is like full trust. What I mean by like trust is just like you meet a person on the street or like on a dating app, you don't instantly assume that they're a piece of shit. Then I think that's the base level of trust that people need to be successful in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
I think one thing I learned from when we were dating is you can't let outside influences like determine how much you trust a person. Like he was hanging out with people that were not of good reputation, you know, like I've heard things about them and I'm like, why are you hanging out with these kinds of people? Like, what does that tell me about you? But when we started dating, I was like, you're completely different. And that's when I learned when you date somebody, you can't listen to what other people say. You just have to find out for yourself, as much as it sucks. But that's how, like, I guess the risk of finding someone for you is just taking that risk of trusting them without influences from outside.
I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah.
I think going off with trust, something that I kind of developed within myself. I went to therapy back when I was a fuckboy and like dealing with a lot of shit. And so one thing
you were a fuckboy before?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Does he not look like it?
Dude, I don't know. He looks like so innocent.
Yeah.
Shut up.
So, I was.
I swear to God.
I was, yeah.
Holy shit.
I was, yeah. So,
dang, this whole time I was like, wait,
let's pull up some fuckboy pictures.
Huh?
Let's pull up some fuckboy pictures.
I'm down.
I don't want to see.
So,
I want to see.
So the thing was, like that I kind of really took away from the therapy is that like, because I was always getting hurt by these girls and like I always would think the worst case scenario. Like I'll play that in my head, always play that out, and like I'll do that because if I'm right, then that's like I'm prepared for it. But the one thing is that like if I keep playing those ideas in my head, why would I want to be right about that? Like why would I always kind of picture that happening? Why? Just so I can feel better, or I can feel like I'm right, even though it hasn't even happened yet, or may not even happen. So when it came to like, let's say with dating Juanne, it's not saying that she was a fucker or anything like that, but
I wasn't.
You weren't. But to really yeah, but not like I could play a lot of worst case scenarios of us not working out, but that's not gonna help our relationship in general, and that's not gonna help me because now I'm just gonna be more reserved. I have to just have full faith in her that this is also what she wants. Background, we were talking and then we weren't I actually asked her to be my girlfriend quite early in the relationship, but she said no. She came from
How early?
Like
3 months.
3 months.
And then
That's
from when
early?
we started talking.
And then
That's early.
Well, keep in mind too, this was when Phil had passed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And so I was in a mindset like I don't want to date yet. I'm not ready. Like I can't I'm the type of person to put myself 100% in a relationship. And if I'm still thinking about my ex, like I can't do it.
Yeah.
That's pretty formidable. Sorry to cut you off, but like, it's pretty formidable that, man, should we even discuss like just a little bit of this?
That's fine.
Okay. So like her ex passed away or something like that. He was also a good friend of mine. And then I guess 3 months after or so.
So it was, I met him 2 months after Phil passed.
Oh, so then 5 months. Okay,
and then
you're
we
still
started
with him.
talking, and it didn't feel right for me to be like, oh, let me just move on. It's like I have to pay respects to the person that I loved before him, and it just didn't feel right. So I was like, you need to give me time. Like it's like I understand if you're not willing to wait, but like I hope you would, because, you know, I really like you and I enjoy your company. But I wasn't going to force him to stay there.
Yeah.
So.
Actually, I don't want to like go through the whole thing about us,
you can talk about it. It's
meeting.
fine. Yeah, that's fine.
So we met through mutual friends, and I actually knew Phil. I met him like once or twice before he passed, and I knew that she was the girlfriend at that time. And so when I met her, I actually had no intention of dating her. I was already in this phase of, I was past being a fuckboy. I was more like, I don't want to see every relationship of a girl I meet to try to be a potential relationship. I should just, you know, appreciate that I have a bond with them just in general, and just like respect that. And so when it came to her, I had no intention of dating her. And then it wasn't until I got to know her more that, you know, we started speaking more, had, you know, same interest in each other. I think we then ended up posing a question like, oh, maybe we should start talking, start dating. And as me knowing her in her past, like, I think I was more reserved, because like I knew that came with, I wouldn't want to say baggage, but that's kind of what it was, is like she came with baggage that I knew that I had to be okay with before I started dating her, because I can't expect her to just drop it and then move in with me. No, like,
I don't know if I would consider that baggage though. I mean, that was something kind of, I mean, I was going to say that's something out of your control, but I mean, baggage is a lot of times out of their control as well, right?
I'm sorry if it was a bad connotation for baggage, but I just knew that she came from things that she had to process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of things that she had to process.
Yeah.
And so like so out of respect, like I gave her as much time as she needed to, you know, accept us being in a relationship. I come from an understanding, like, I know that I'm not here to take place of her late boyfriend, but it was more of, I'm here to show that I'm there for her through thick and thin, and then if she appreciates that and wants to continue, then that choice will be up to her.
Yeah, I think that's pretty crazy, because like with all of that shit that happened, like with Phil's passing, and then 2 months after you like kind of met him, or you guys started talking and getting a little bit more serious, and then now you guys are super serious and married. So I think that just kind of goes to show to like viewers that, yeah, sometimes you just gotta give like some faith to like a relationship, and not just like totally be like, oh, this guy's a fuck boy, I'm just gonna like let this go.
No, and like for girls that feel empowered or that don't feel empowered, like you can always go for the man. Like you don't have to hold
you
back.
went for him?
I went for him. I went after him.
Whoa.
Oh, I love
that's
that.
what, yeah.
I went after him. Because when he had asked me, he was like, no. But even in the beginning, like I was like, I'm kind of interested in him. So backstory. So I was really sad after Phil's passing. Yeah. And it came to a point where like I was hanging out with people that, like, a lot of my friends are guys. And so I was hanging out with guys that slept around a lot. So I was like, why don't I try that? Like, I don't do that. So let me just try it. And it was just like, because I was sad.
Like, you're able to do that?
My best friend had stopped me. He was like, you're the type of person that gets emotionally invested when you have like a physical interaction with somebody. Yeah. So don't do it, because it's going to mess you up. And so we had planned to go to San Francisco with like our other friends, and they had invited him, and I was like, oh, you're going to drop me off to my room after the club, and like we're going to fuck, and then that's it.
Wait, him? This fuckboy?
Him.
Oh,
like,
shit.
I was like, we're just going to sleep, and that's it. Sleep together, and that's it. Like, I was in this mindset that I was like, I'm going to try it out, because it seems like it's working for my friends. Like, you know, like they give this I don't give a fuck attitude, and that's what I wanted, because I didn't want to feel sad.
Wait, hold up. You were like, let's go to the hotel and we're just gonna fuck, or he said that.
No, I said that.
Oh, you
this
said
one.
Oh, wait.
Like,
so,
I was gonna stray away from my I only fuck in a relationship, because I was like, I'm so sad. I haven't had sex, and it's just like.
Well, you didn't go through with it.
I didn't. No, so the trip didn't pull through. The trip didn't pull through.
We had a conversation before. We had a conversation before that. So we were about to go to San Francisco, and I was okay with just being a hookup for that trip, and then she last minute changed it up and was like, actually, I don't want to just fuck around. Would you consider being in a long-term relationship?
I couldn't do it. And
love the honesty.
And then I was so scared to tell him or ask him that, because I was like, what if he says no? Like, I just want to sleep around. And so I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, how much hurt can I be in? Like, I've already been through so much. Like, how much more hurt can I be in? So I was just like,
holy shit.
I want a relationship after this. And he's like, okay, let's do it. And I was like,
that's when you guys got together.
Yeah.
no, not yet.
Oh,
not yet.
Well, I guess
But
we were
we-
exclusive.
We were exclusive, but I was like, let me just work on myself for a little bit because I don't want you to feel second to Phil.
Aww.
Like, if I'm in this like 110%. I don't want you to feel second to anybody. So
You just needed your time to
Yeah.
process, and he was understanding enough to give you that time.
yeah.
I like
So it
that
was like
a
6
lot.
months before.
Wow, 6 months of waiting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's true love. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's play this video. Juanne, you
Oh
remember
my
this
god,
video,
I
right?
hate this video. I hate this video so much.
When he takes you to the car, what's the first thing he's supposed to do?
Open the door for me.
Good job. When he takes you out on this date, who pays?
He does.
Perfect. And if he doesn't do any of these things?
He's a fucking asshole.
Truth. Hey,
All right. What you gotta say to that, Juanne?
Well, okay, first thing, can you blame girls now for thinking that way if they grew up like that? Like, I don't think you can blame somebody if that's all they knew.
I think you can, because self-awareness goes a long way. And then if you like, your parents are not saints, and if your parents are teaching you this and now you're a grown-ass adult, you should reflect a little bit and be like, oh, this is not something that was right that I grew up with.
I agree.
Like, there's a lot of things that I got taught from my parents that I reflect, and I'm like, you know,
But not
these are
everybody has that self-awareness to reflect. It takes somebody else to
They
tell
should,
them, like,
or else
your
they're-
parents were
there's-
wrong and, like, you need to change. Because, like, let's say, like, kids that grew up a certain way that their parents taught them, that's all they know. And the first teachers in your life are your parents.
yeah.
And so who are you going to believe, outside people or your parents? And of course it's going to be your parents. And if your parents teach you like this, and for somebody outside of your family to tell you that's incorrect or that's wrong, wouldn't you think like they would
I
go
think
against you?
That's like a lack of responsibility, though, because if you're just like going based off what you learned in childhood, and you're not like going back and thinking, is this right or wrong? Like, a lot of people in this world are fucking NPCs. Like, they're like robots, just like going through like their day, like, oh, this is what my teacher taught me, and they don't question the morality of it. They're just like going about their day, doing their stupid work or whatever 9-to-5 job. Then they come home, Netflix, go to sleep. Same old bullshit, right? Everyone's just like, a lot of people on this world are like NPCs. They don't think and question. So I think even if they're like NPCs or robots or whatever, they still lack responsibility, you know, and they should still reflect a little bit. That's just my belief. But
I think as this girl, like, okay, let's like put her as an example. When she grows up and her relationships fail continuously over and over again, I think that's what pushes people to really be self-aware, is like trial and error. If something goes wrong continuously and it's the same, you know, routine every time, like, I would question myself and be like, why isn't it working out with these people?
But it's like what we said earlier, like, remember her friend, where it's like she had traumatic experiences, or I don't know if it's trauma, but like bad experiences with guys. Then she starts to have a higher standard. Then it's like, if you have a higher standard, then it's like a kind of like a graph. Like, the higher standard you have, the more failed relationships you have. So failed relationships is on the x-axis, y-axis is like higher standard, right? So
well, I
don't know
think
if you
too,
guys
when
know.
girls set higher standards when they date people, it's like a checkbox. Like, they're like, oh, what boxes do you check? Which boxes am I willing to give up? And a lot of girls and even guys, they're not willing to give up anything on their list when they do a checklist with somebody that they're dating. They're not willing to be like, oh, I can give this part up. They're like, no, you have to have everything. And I think that's unfair.
yeah, that's what modern dating is now. The standards are getting a lot higher, and I think that's why it's failing a lot, because people just see on IG like lavish lifestyle, and they're like, I want it to be like this. Or they see like Disney, they're like, Disney is so romantic, I want it like that. But Disney doesn't really teach you that you have to pay for everything as a man. So I don't know where they're probably getting it from, like Kim Kardashian or some bullshit. Like, I don't know what's going on there. Then they factor everything together, and they're just like, all right, man has to have, god damn, this thing is spazzing out, sorry for the viewers. All right. But what I'm saying is that, like, then they start thinking the man has to have romanticness, and they have to have like the ability to pay finances from Kim Kardashian or whatever bullshit. Then it's like the standards are so high through the roof. That's why the modern dating, I feel like it's failing. But on a guy's end, do you think for the girls, like, do you think the standards are getting higher for guys? Like me personally, I feel like the standards are getting higher for women, but the standards are getting lower for men. I mean, you guys could disagree if you guys.
What's considered a man with a high standard? Like, what does that even mean?
Well, I mean, there are men with high standards.
I mean, what does it mean when a girl's looking for a guy that's higher standard? I mean,
like,
what does that entail?
Well, like, I have friends that'll be like, oh, if I ask them, like, what kind of guy do you want to date? Like, you're single. Like, what guy would you say yes to? They're like, oh, has to make more than me, has to make this much, has to, you know, be family oriented. Like, they basically have a checklist that's like, okay, does this man check this box off? Does he make more than me? You know, is he family oriented? How does he treat his mom?
But what if that girl has like absolutely no chemistry with this guy and he just looks good on paper? Is she still willing to go for that?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Now, I have a question though. Like, you have a lot of male friends, right? Now, from your experience, like talking to your male friends, do they say like the checklist too, or what?
Oh, they have a checklist, but in the meantime, while they're not, you know, when they haven't found a girl that checks off majority of those boxes, they're just sleeping around.
I really don't believe in checklists though. But
I don't either.
Yeah, it just doesn't work like that. You know, you can meet everyone that just right on paper. You guys have good communication, but something can still feel like it's lacking.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to this video. I think Juanne, you asked me.
I asked you how you felt about this.
Yeah.
Need someone better than them, smarter than them, fitter than them, bigger than them, more inspiring than them, more successful than them. Otherwise, where's the attraction? I'm asking, maybe some women don't mind, but I mind. I need to be inspired by the guy, otherwise I'll eat them for breakfast. I mean, I'll finish them off in 24 hours. I just, you know, I also need someone to handle me. And only an alpha or a double alpha can do that. Women.
Double alpha. What is a double alpha?
That's me.
I didn't know there was a such thing as double alphas. Damn. Juanne, what did you want to say about this first before I go?
I, to an extent, somewhat agree with her, but I also don't. Like, when you're in a relationship with someone, you become a team, and it's not always going to be 50-50. And so for me, like, when I date, I don't technically look for things that they, like, holes that they could fill in that I lack in, but it's like, however I can benefit from our relationship, that's why I would want to date somebody or, like, invest in somebody. So
you would want a guy that is like a double alpha or alpha?
No, I'm the alpha.
No, you're.
Okay. I'm definitely.
Okay, let me ask you about that first before I do my thoughts on this. Okay, so yeah, okay, you think of yourself as the alpha, right? Like, you're the breadwinner or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. You do more of like the male roles and stuff like that. So do you feel like that would turn off a guy though?
I feel like some guys are intimidated by that.
They are, right?
I think that's hot. Well, I'm not a guy, but I think that's hot.
I think it might take away from the guys like feeling what they can provide for. Because if the girl starts doing it, like, what am I here for? What can I do to show off how great I am?
Yeah.
In some experience.
Just make sure you're talking to the mic.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Move it a little closer.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, even now, can I?
Hmm?
Like, he recently got laid off, and there were some people that I've told, and they were like, you know, like, people would leave, like, girls would leave. And I'm like, well, aside from being married to him, even if we were just dating and, like, living together, why would I leave based on, like, financial need? Like, I can handle myself. So why would I leave him? When you really love somebody, I think that's what makes it so special when you're in a relationship, is that no matter what hardship you go through, like, you're there. If he's at a 20, like earlier, like I said, if he's at a 20, I'm at an 80, and I pick up where he can't. And for me, that's, like, very empowering, because I like to be the provider, and I know so does he. So right now, like, I remember when we were both working, we were like, okay, race to, like, 200 grand. Like, who can make that in a year? Like, I'll race you. Like, for me, for both of us, we use that, like, as motivation to be better for each other. But, like, now when you're going through a rough patch, like, I take pride in being able to take care of him. But also, I enjoy him being at home because it's like I come home from work and I'm tired. The dogs are taken care of. Like the dogs are happy because someone's home. And then there's food on the table and the apartment's clean. And I'm like, maybe you should just not work. Like you should just stay home. Like I can pay for everything. You can take care of everything at home.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's totally chill. You know, I think that symbolizes true love. And when we tend to see alpha women like makes the money and stuff like that, and then their husband's not making money or things like that, we tend to think that this woman would probably leave because we would be like, oh, you know, she's more like about the money. Like she wants to see her husband be better in every single aspect. But you know, it's more like true love if this is like happening and then you're still able to still be together and, you know, have no worries. I mean, you could tell there's no worries, right? I mean, viewers could see like the way she talks about it, like, you know, it's not superficial. So that's why I kind of wanted you guys on the podcast, because it's good symbolicness. I don't know if that's the right word. It's a good visual representation. No, it's a good representation, just not even visual, but just representation that if you really want like a true love, then it'd be kind of like this, where you don't worry too much about the money and you see where you could pull weight in certain areas, right? Because I think that true love or a relationship should be where people carry each other's weight. So if you're sucking at a few things, then the other person takes care of it, and vice versa, right? But if the other person is just doing jack shit, then that's not really a relationship. What was the term used? I think we talked about this online.
What?
You use a term for this, like it's like being a baby or something. That's not a relationship, or I forget. Was it you?
Babysitter?
I forget.
I don't know.
But like even when we're going through a rough patch, like sometimes like we're tight on money, and like we joke around and like I sing him the Justin Bieber song, As Long As You Love Me, and we just laugh and we're like, yeah, we're good. Like it doesn't matter if we're homeless or like hungry, for as long as you have each other, like we're good.
Yeah. I think all these podcasts, they talk about how men should make money first and then they could date, right? And then that ties into like why men should pay for like dates and all this shit. But then like you're practically saying that the guys who don't have jobs, like for example James, like you're practically saying that these people are practically saying that James is not deserving of a relationship, right? And I think that's a little fucked up.
Yeah.
So I think we gotta change that as a society. So I mean, Sandy, would you date like a guy if he was unemployed?
Yeah, I would. I have. I feel for me, I don't need the guy to be very successful, but I do need a guy who's ambitious, like always trying to get better than the day before. I think that's important. Yeah.
What kept you interested with that guy who was unemployed?
What's that?
What kept you interested in him? Were you guys dating?
Just
or were
like
you guys...
because it's really hard for me to like someone. Like I met guys that have like a lot of good qualities, great jobs, but just feels like something's missing. And I have guys that took me out, they would pay for my meals, but I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel satisfied. So I realized that I don't think that money is the solution to everything. You can actually feel really empty if you're with the wrong person. And even though he pays for your meals, it's not like I can't pay for myself.
Right.
You know? Yeah. So yeah. It's really hard to describe when you click with someone. It's not just because, wow, like he checked this off my list, right? There's just something there. You know what I mean?
What were some of the commonalities of them? What were they lacking? What was lacking from those past men who just weren't? I
don't know. I just didn't I just didn't feel the chemistry, even though to him there's a lot of chemistry because I can talk to people. I'm a conversationalist, but I can't explain it. I really can't explain that. Yeah, it's just a feeling. Yeah.
You just know when you know.
Exactly.
I think that's I think that was as cliche as it sounds. I think that when I met Juanne, like in that,
you should bake it though.
Like to really just be ready to marry that person. Like I didn't believe it at first because you have that bad past, but when you get that feeling where you can just have full faith in them and the relationship and not be worried about the worst that can happen.
Dude, I feel like such a fat ass. Like, look at this. There's like I feel like it's not dropping on anything. But
Do you guys want one? It's
should
turkey
taste it.
potato balls.
pretty freaking good.
Yeah. But it's better if you bake it or heat it up.
Yeah.
It's up to you. Yeah.
It's fine.
I'll have it at the end.
No, I will eat it now. Oh, I'll eat it. It's fine.
I just downed the whole thing. I stuffed it in my mouth. Deep throated that shit. Back to being a host. Sorry, I'm being a badass right now.
Doing a great job.
Alright. I think I have one last question, okay? So, you said to me before, Juanne, that...
I'm scared. What are you reading?
No, it's not bad, okay. So, you said this to me before, Juanne. So, you said that someone you dated in the past, he teared up the first time you paid for his date. And he was like, none of the girls I've dated before in LA has paid for anything for me. They always ask me to pay. And you're like, no, this is a relationship, not me trying to leech off of you because you have money, right?
Yeah.
So, James, I want to ask, how often do women pay for you on dates back then? Like, often or not often?
I wouldn't let it happen. There was one time where I went on a date with a girl and they did the whole bathroom thing, and no, when the check came and I already knew what it was.
Are you serious?
Yeah. They're like, oh, I gotta go. I'm like, oh, okay. That's like, okay, I'll go ahead and pay it. Like, I'm not gonna be like, at that point, I'm just trying to cause less friction and just like get the date over with. I know where it's leading up to. That's totally fine. I go on like first dates already having the expectation to just pay because like I just don't want to cause any awkwardness.
Yeah.
In that sense, and so like I rather just focus on the connection. So that's why I never really had my food ever paid for. But it's more of me just being self-secure. Like, I think me being ready to pay for myself and being able to pay for someone else just shows that I'm ready to have another person be a part of my life.
Yeah, but like, say for example, like when she first started paying for like dates and stuff like that, right? Because at the start, you paid for everything, right?
No, when we started dating, like our first time meeting each other alone, like just us two, was in a hotel because it was COVID. Oh. And so he paid for the hotel, but I paid for our food, like dinner and breakfast when we were there. So for me, like it's important for me to split things and not depend on him to pay for everything because it's like we're in this together, and I don't like the idea of feeling helpless. So
okay. Well, I did want to say that like for men, I think it's really like it means a lot when the girl like pays, and I think that's a really high value thing when you were able to do that. For example, when you paid for the person you dated before, and then I think that's something that not a lot of men experience. And so when we experience that, we're like a little kid. It's like what you said, like he became like a little kid, and then he was just like kind of like happy, really happy, right? And so you already kind of knew that when a guy gets his stuff paid for, he's like super happy. And then I think that's why a relationship kind of goes both ways, and like why it's so important that like sometimes once in a while like a girl would pay too to make the guy feel happy, because it's a two-way street. If it's always the guy paying, then it's just a one-way street, right? So
what do you guys think about this? One of my girlfriends, so she expects her soon to be fiance to pay for her meals, right? But then she told me she contributes in many different ways. So it would be like 60-40. Like she wouldn't pay, like she would like surprise him with like gifts, or she might buy like his plane ticket sometimes. Like, do you think that is 50-50 relationship here, even though the guy pays for the meals, but she contributes by like doing something else? Do you think that is still 50-50? You know what I mean?
In the perspective of things, right? If the guy is receiving that as a 50-50, like her doing her part, then it's 50-50. Okay. But if she's just giving out gifts because that's just what she likes doing, and the guy doesn't know how to appreciate that or doesn't appreciate that at all, then it's not 50-50. You can see that down the road that may or may not work out. But saying it's a fiance, I'm assuming that's what
it works out for them. So it depends on the person.
Yeah,
ultimately.
Exactly.
All right.
yeah, and like think about like this is something I've also been thinking about. So when a woman goes like, oh, I expect like a guy to like pay for every time like when he asks me out, or like whenever like they go out to eat, right? So say for example, like if the woman decides, oh, let's go to this place to eat, and then he has to pay for all these things, right? Then he'd probably not even want to go out anymore
Right.
because it's like
Yeah.
it's a trap.
Yeah.
And that's something my friend experienced recently, because every time, and everyone always says this, right? Where it's like, if the person gets asked out, the person that asks that person should pay, right? But it would be her picking the place. And then when she's picking the place, he still ends
pays.
up paying. Yeah. So then I'm like, bro, isn't that kind of discouraging? Like, you wouldn't really want to go out anymore. And then, like, if you guys want to have fun together, and then there's this wall because you have to pay everything as a man, then you lose out on all the potential fun you guys could have had if you guys just split half. But I guess in some people's minds, it's like, oh, well, it's a way to show that you love that person or are interested in that person. I don't know.
I have a funny story to share. Going back to like just courting girls. There's one girl who I tried to date in the past, and I was trying to court them. So what I did was like, hey, I'll pick a place for us to eat for dinner. Don't worry about it. And then I'll go ahead and cover it. Went on a date, thought it went well. Had some mutual friends that were friends with her, and that person, she actually thought I was trying too hard. She would rather prefer to go on a Jack in the Box date than for me to keep a secretive restaurant that I really
I know
enjoyed.
girls like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like even my boys who were friends with her, like dude, you're trying too hard at that point. That's like, you shouldn't do that. And
They're
that,
so ungrateful.
yeah, that kind of that
It's
that,
like, if I go too much,
Yeah.
it's too much. If I
Yeah.
go too little, it's too little. Too
Yeah.
cheap, it's too little.
exactly.
It's
So
like,
that,
what is the goddamn balance, man?
Yeah.
Like, how do I know? It's like kind of like, for example, like during sex, it's like, what is your orgasm point? Like, everyone has different orgasm points. Like, what? I have to be a mind reader or what?
True.
God damn.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of these like politics that goes on, man, with like the whole dating thing. Okay. So, let's see. Oh, okay. Actually, there's one more that I had in mind. Here.
That was really good, by the way.
Really have more. I got
Oh,
6.
God, no.
Yeah. Have you had it before?
The turkey one, no.
Oh,
I
but
only
you
do
have
the
portals
regular-
before, right? Oh,
The regular potato ball
with
and
pork,
then the cheese.
right? Have you tried their guava cheese? It's so good. Yeah.
Let's see. Oh my god. I gotta make this smaller. Sorry. My screen share. Okay, cool. So we have this. I think. Did you send this to me? I forget.
No.
Oh, fuck. All right. God. But you replied to this, right? I forgot.
I replied to a lot of your stories.
All right. Okay. So the context of this is that like one of my friends got this message from a girl. So he was texting this girl. Okay. So she said, if you can't pick me up, we can go next week, LMAO. And then he said parks or quarters. Quarters is pretty expensive. That's like Korean barbecue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Currytown.
he was like, what do you mean? To her, like, pick me up next week. What she's trying to say is that, like, oh, if you can't pick me up, then fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, let's just, and you know, the funny thing is that, like, she drives a Tesla. She's pretty loaded. She makes a pretty good amount of money. She's, like, pretty well off and successful, has time and all that stuff. So for this to happen, I mean, goddamn, sorry.
She laughed about it too, like really hard. Like, look.
Oh yeah. She also like laughed at him like as if it was a joke. Like he can't even pick,
Yeah.
you know, he can't even pick her up. And so, James, I want to ask you this. Like, I'm sure you came across many girls like this, right?
Yeah.
Would you as a man be more willing or less willing to go out with girls like this?
I need to know the context though. Like, was he not? Did he? I guess before in that beginning conversation, was he not planning for her to drive her, or what? Or was he joking around? What was it? How was the conversation going?
He was saying that we could meet there. And she was like, oh, if you're not going to drive me, then let's just shoot for next week. And then she's like, how could you have the urge to ask me to drive to you? Ha 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 ha. Or no. Yeah, it was like he he would drive them from his house, because I think what it is that she lives more inland, and then she would drive to him, and then from there he would drive to like the LA city, so more next to the beach and stuff like that. But then she was kind of making it seem like, all right, you have to pick me up more inland, then let's go pass by your house again and then go to like the city. And then it's like, that's
So the route wasn't efficient if he were to go pick her up.
Yeah. And then she's expecting like, oh, you have to go pick me up, and if you don't, then how could you have the urge to ask me to drive to you?
I think like off first glance, and just like if a girl were to be like that, I'll be put off. I'll be like, oh, this girl doesn't even like kind of care about me. I really have to do the extra legwork to show that I want her, and she may or may not be interested in me at that point. So like, is she worth, going back to pick her up and then get her? If it's just like a hinge match, right? I haven't met the person before. I don't know how they act in person. So now I'm putting it a lot at risk just to go on a food date. Like I would be more of like reluctant to go out with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially when she drives a Tesla, right?
Yeah.
Just auto drive that
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like, wouldn't you want like a girl who's more submissive, that you can kind of like pamper though? Would
I want that? I mean,
like you drive to her, because you did say you like to chase a girl, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do like to chase. If it made a lot of sense, like in this case, if she was like on the way, of course, go pick her up, and then we can go, to dinner, and I'll treat her out for dinner. I think it really comes from, at what point of dating was I in my life? Was I a fuckboy where I was trying to just be more reserved and protect myself? Probably not. But if it was for me to actually be in a relationship with a person, I definitely would, do the full thing.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give my input on this. I think that, yeah, I would want a girl to be more submissive, but then like it comes to a point where like if I have to do bitch work all the time for her, and it's like driving to you more inland when you could just drive to me, and it's like we're a team, right?
Yeah.
So you guys are a team, you guys are a partnership, right? And I think what's the problem with modern dating is that it's not really a partnership anymore. It's more like take,
Yeah.
and it's not really like give anything. It's not like trying to like see where we could be balanced and equal and stuff like that. That's why I always reiterate on our podcast about equality. I think you kind of made fun of that. Like I was like, hey, yo, I just got this new background and stuff like that, and she's
I was like, is it a neon sign that says equality?
I was like, God damn, she watches so much of the podcast then. God damn. But yeah, I reiterate so much, like equality is very important. Like I know you guys are not like equal, but you guys harmonize into like equality, because you guys pull each other's weight, right? So I think that's very important. And so if it's, say for example, this case where it's like this guy's got to do extra work when she could just put in just a little, and he still drives way more than her, then that's...
Well, like even one thing that I learned on a video that I had seen on Instagram, like as a couple, even if you're not married, for as long as you're serious about each other, like when you know how much the other person makes and they don't make as much as you do, it can't be 50-50. Because it's like, if you guys split everything, let's say couples that live together that aren't married, if you split the rent like straight down the middle in half, and let's say I'm well off and he's living paycheck to paycheck because he's helping me pay for half the rent, he's going to end up resenting me because I have fun money that, I don't feel obliged to give it to him. He's not going to ask me for it. So like in the video that I was watching, it says that if you really love somebody and you see that they're worth it, you would never split anything down the middle. It would be to what that person is capable of paying, that they're still comfortable, living off of. And for me, like, we had made the decision to like get a joint account because of that. Because I was like, okay, well, we're not making the same. I should be pulling more of the weight. And a lot of women would not do that. You know what I mean? Like, for them, it's just like, well, it's even. Equal means 50-50, and it's not. It's whatever you're capable of giving in the relationship, and it always has to equal 100.
Yeah, I think I agree that it's not always going to be like 50-50, but like what equality kind of means to me is you're able to put out like a lot of work in like what you can, and that other person, like, they're kind of expected to like pull the weight where like you can't,
Yeah,
really
like
don't have the time
sometimes
for
it can be 30-70, and the 40% you kind of just make it up for
Right.
the other person.
Yeah.
Right.
And it switches like throughout the relationship. Sometimes 50-50, sometimes 90-10, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it always fluctuates. That's why
Yeah.
like it's important to check in with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that way it's like you don't end up resenting that person and the
Yeah.
relationship like flows smoothly.
I agree.
Yeah, a relationship experience that I had was that I was making all the money, more of the money, like probably like 3-5 times more or so. And then I would have to do also house chores and stuff like that. So I think also equality is a little bit determined on like if this person is like going the extra mile for an extended period of time, so that person is going to get burned out. And say, for example, that girlfriend of mine or the girl I dated before, she could have like, I think you got to push yourself a little bit. You got to be out of your comfort zone a little bit more.
Yeah.
But if one person is always out of their comfort zone, the other person is just really comfortable all the time. Like, dude, no one wants to do laundry. Dude, come on. Like, this shit's like, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure you don't want to do it, but it's just like you do it because it brings equality. It evens out the scale, right?
Equality.
No one wants to do that shit. It's like, oh, I have fun doing laundry.
Not wrong. I just like having a clean house. She leaves laundry everywhere.
That's the one thing like we can't agree on. He does laundry, like he'll wash it and then he'll fold it, but I expect him to put it away. Like I'm like, no, put it away.
But the reason why I don't put it away is because she likes it in a particular manner, and whenever I ever do it wrong, she would point it out. And so if it's a particular way she wants to do it, I'll prep everything for her, but I'll just leave her at.
I would say to harmonize, you should definitely put it away because she's also driving. She's also driving, she's driving. And what else do you do?
I drove here, or like halfway.
Oh my God, there was this
halfway.
one time. So he's not a car guy. Like I know you're a car guy, and I used to date guys that were like into cars. So I'm pretty well versed with like, changing the brakes and like changing the tires and changing oil. And so this one time he went to the gas station. I was with him. He went to the gas station to go fill up his tire because he was like, it says like the light was on. And I was like, okay. So he took off all the lug nuts because he had to take the hubcap off. He filled the tire and then he put back the hubcap and the lug nuts. And I was in the car the entire time. And I was like, okay, cool. And then we drove off and I was like, did you put it on correctly? Because there's a noise. And he's like, no, yeah, I did. I'm pretty sure I did. Like, I made sure it was really tight. And I was like, well, if it's tight, it wouldn't be making a noise. And he's like, no, it's fine.
Hold on. Why did he take off the wheel
So
to fill up the tire?
His sister had bought him a hubcap because he had a missing hubcap. The hubcap that his sister bought him was too big for the wheel. And so when you put the hubcap on, you can attach it using the lug nuts, but it covers the valve.
Oh, okay.
So he had to take the hubcap off, which means taking off the hubcaps to fill the tire using the valve with air.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then I got out of the car and I like took the, what do you call
Never seen that before.
The lug nut wrench thing. So I took it and then I was like in deadlift position and I like pulled it and like tightened it and it was so loose. And I was like, what would you do without me? And he was like, well, I thought it was like furniture where like you don't have to tighten it all the way.
Not super tight. Now you're just throwing me under the bus here.
What the fuck?
But we're
Holy
all here
shit.
now. We're all safe now. Now I've learned.
This was recently?
No,
No.
this was like
today?
No,
this was
no.
like a few months ago.
Okay. That doesn't turn you off?
No, it actually turns me on because I'm like, look at me change your car.
Oh.
Look at me fix your car.
That.
I think a lot of guys though, they would complain. They would be like, "Oh, the too alpha of a woman. I can't have that," right? But I think it's good. I think it's good as long as you find a balance. But the worst is that we all want to avoid is just like when there's absolutely nothing being done and kind of like to pull the weight in the other aspects, Anyways, I think that this is a pretty good stopping point, but I do have one final question that is not on my notes.
Okay.
What suggestion do you guys have for like all the people like right now experiencing modern dating and struggling in relationships? What do you guys have as like a suggestion to them to be more successful with their dating life?
I say take the risk of being selfless because it only takes one person to change your entire life. And imagine, like, had I gone through what I wanted to do initially before I was serious about dating him, it would have messed me up really badly. And I feel like a lot of people, like men and women, are going through that kind of like psychological issue because they're not willing to let their walls down. Like, I understand that it's scary to do it, but nothing's going to change unless you do it. And nothing's going to get better. Like, no risk, no reward, right? So you have to take the risk to be able to find the person that would be like 110 for you.
Yeah. I think, Sandy, you could definitely agree with that, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you give, I've seen you give a lot of guys chances too, especially like fuckboys as well. So, like fuckboy history, guys.
Maybe, yeah, I'm sure. Maybe.
Like, you
I
don't
think
just look at someone's
like we all
history.
have, right? We all have, yeah.
Because a lot of women now, I think they just see that and they're just like, no. Or they see one ick, not necessarily being a fuckboy, and they're just like, no, cut off.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think one takeaway that got me ready to be in a long-term relationship with Joanne was, one, like, don't see every bond you with a girl that you're like as a potential to date. Like, don't try to do that. Try to have that respect. Love will come find you. And one other thing is that, like, that really challenged me was that with a bunch of failed relationships, I thought that love will never, like, I guess, find me in that sad boy area. But it was more of like, love comes in a lot of different ways, more than just with a partner. So the more you open yourself up to love with friends and family, right? That will allow you to, you know, open up for love for a potential partner. So that will kind of get you into that selfless stage in your life where you'll be ready, and, you know, hopefully that person's ready for you.
That was very valiant ending speech. All right, cool. We're going to end it here. Thank you guys watching for the Controvert podcast. Make sure to subscribe if you guys want to see more content like this. And DM us if you guys want to be a guest speaker. Do you guys have anything else you guys want to say? Last take. Final take.
Follow on Instagram at Mahalita with 3 A's.
Cool. Do you want to give IG? No IG?
No, it's all good.
That's okay.
No? All right, cool. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Sandy, for coming as well. We will see you guys next time on Controvert Podcast. Peace out.